Hello everyone, something new. I am going to tell you a few stories, some horsetail stories from the past, working with horses. So, story one. I didn't have a car at the time. I was quite a bit younger, and I was being driven from my family's home into where I was staying in another town. And so we were on this two-lane highway and we were tootling down the road. And I had quite a bit of experience with horses at this time. And we went over this little hill and down a hill, and it was 2 seconds. I see a horse's leg standing straight up in the air. And it was odd. So I said, turn around, turn around. So I made the people who were driving me stop the car and turn around. And it was a standard bred farm. And people who don't know, these are the horses that pull the sulky carts and race and things. They look like a standard bred farm. And this little horse had gotten his leg caught up in the fence. And he couldn't get up, and his leg was all woven up into the fence so that it was like standing straight up in the air. So we worked to free this little animal. He looked like a yearling, maybe year and a half years old, something like that. Anyway, some people stopped and they actually had wire cutters, and we were able to cut this poor little thing free. And instead of being grateful, it tried to bite me. But I felt really good because who knows what might have happened with him stuck like that. So that's story one. Story two is when I was even younger, I was visiting a farm, and I had more guts than brains, really. So we were out looking at the horses, and they were standing quietly by the fence, and we were petting them and everything. And they didn't have halters on or anything, saddles, nothing. They were just out in the field, but they were standing by the fence being very friendly. So I get the bright idea to jump on one of them. So I slide from the fence onto the back of this little horse who apparently hadn't been ridden in a long time. It took off across the field at a full galloping, pretty much, pretty fast. And I stayed with it. I have to say, I was fine. I was staying with it. I wasn't. But then it bucked. And I flew up in the air. And at that time, if I was falling off a horse, I'd land on my feet. I would twist around. I was like a cat. Somehow or other, I'd land on my feet. So down I go on, but both ankles. Well, don't I? Well, sprain one more ankle worse than the other, but I hurt both my ankles. And so I had to be helped to walk and to stand. And I ended up having all this horse liniment rubbed on my ankles, which was rather painful. And the owners of the property weren't, I'm sure, were not impressed. But anyway, the pain didn't last long. I recovered rather quickly. You know when you're young, eh? Story three. Now, this one, I have a tendency to somehow be in the right place at the right time to save animals, or, you know, to protect somehow. But anyway, I was part leasing and working at this fairly nice stable with an indoor arena. And I was coming in one day and I hear someone crying. And if you don't know about horses, when you have a young horse, it was a young horse, young rider. It was like a teenager. And this horse didn't have its balance yet with the rider under saddle. And it had panicked for some reason. And they get kind of a glaze in their eye and then just start galloping. So it was galloping around the indoor arena, and this little girl couldn't stop it. But when it went to go around the corner, it would almost fall. because it didn't have its balance, and it was getting all sweated up, and it had the glaze in his eyes, and his head was all up high, and she's crying and panicking. So I had to calm the situation down. So out I went, and I said, okay, I need you to take a deep breath, and then the horse would go around the corner, almost fall again with this little teenager on it, just a young horse, you know. And I said, now I want you to, you know, make your legs long. I want you to very, you know, softly say whoa. And she was like, whoa, 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 you know, sob between sobs. And I said, now I want you to put your hand forward and just stroke his neck, tell him to whoa, and just keep doing that, and sit up maybe a little straighter, make your legs longer so that when he turns you're not going to get thrown off. Just really relax as much as you can. Then I booted it for the feed room, and you have to break that glazed look, you know. So I grabbed a can and got some grain in a bucket, and I came back out, and I'm rattling the grain bucket just to break the concentration of the horse. Food, 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 you know. And slowly he came down, and I got her off the horse, and this horse was soaking like lathered, you know. So I was very grateful that I was there, and I told, you know, of course, told her, you're gonna have to walk this horse now. You know, like you walk them after they've had a workout like that. And so we blanketed him, and she walked her horse, but I was very, very grateful that I happened to be there at that time. And my last story for now, because I've got a lot of them, is a very pleasant ride that I had a few years ago. This is now, I'm older, and I was riding with a friend, and I was riding a beautiful 18 hands Salle Francaise cross mare who was very sensible. And it was Easter Sunday, and we couldn't ride in the fields because everything was just melting. So it was too slippery. So it was a dirt road, and it was Easter Sunday, and there's no traffic on the dirt road. So we decided to, you know, just walk the horses up the dirt road. And it was a glorious day. The sun was shining. You know, it was just beautiful, and it was one of the best times that I can remember on horseback. We just rode talking, and the horses were sensible, and the sun was shining. We could even hear birds, you know. And we just went a couple miles up the road, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful day, and a beautiful, beautiful time, and no traffic, and you know, just enjoyed myself immensely. So that's just my final horsetail. It was a lovely time. So I hope you've enjoyed these little snippets of my time with horses, which I'm still involved a little bit. So everyone, have a great rest of the month year. We'll talk to you soon.